Word for today. Friday night, went to Pix. Pix is always a good place to get some theology, all right? I sat there with a couple of folks who have been here a lot longer than I have. And one of them asked me how my day had been. And I said, well, it was okay. And he said, in other words, it was like this. And I said, yeah, it was like this kind of day. And you could use some sunshine on your day. If you remember Friday night, wasn't all that beautiful around here, was it? In fact, the whole day had been a little punky. We've had worse, but we've had better. It was kind of a... And I said, yeah, be light. They looked at each other and laughed. And we went on. But isn't that kind of the way it is? And then we have these holy days, these holidays in which we remember special things. We remember all the saints. We just did Halloween, which is the night before All Saints' Day. We're doing Thanksgiving, which is a secular holiday, though was first celebrated by Christian people, because it made it through the year. You ever just get to the end of the day, you come home, you sit on the couch, put your feet up, and you're glad? They'd had that kind of year, and they knew winter was coming, and the last winter had just been awful. And so they gathered together to ask the Lord's blessing, and also to draw strength and encouragement from each other. Is it good to be with family? Is it good to be with friends? Is it good to be with your dog or your cat? It's good. We just draw strength from each other. We draw life. And sometimes we need to be grateful for the life we've had. Sometimes we need to be grateful for the moment. And sometimes we need to look ahead and be grateful for what's coming, even though we're not quite sure what it is. So they gave thanks. It's a holy thing to do, even though it's not a holy day. It's not from the church. Christmas is coming. Advent starts next week. Don't forget to go down to Andy's. You're welcome to come here and sit in the parking lot and watch the snowflakes. Whatever's going by, go by. But most of us will be down at Andy's. And beginning the season of Jesus coming to us as a baby. How unlikely for the Creator of all that is to come to us that way. And so it goes. We stop and we pause from time to time to give thanks and to remember who we are and what life is about. Today's passage is picked by people smarter than I am, and it's been read on this Sunday, the last Sunday this is the end of the Christian year. Next week is the beginning of the next year as we think about the coming of Christ. And so here we are at the end. Now, this is New Year's Eve? No. This is New Year's Day. This is Old Year's Day. Tomorrow's New Year's. I get confused. Time's confusing. You ever get confused by time? Nah. So anyhow, this is the end of the Christian year. And so this passage, it also happens to be Thanksgiving Sunday, but this passage might not fit, but it fits. It says here that being strengthened by His all power to His glorious might, so that you might have great endurance and patience and giving joyful hearts to the Father, the end result of knowing who Jesus Christ is, of Christ being with us, of all the things that we remember all year, from the coming of Jesus and the wise men and Christmas carols, all the way through February and March and mud and stuff, all the way until this Sunday. They all result in joy. That's what Paul is saying here. It all results in joy. And as a result, we have strength, we have endurance, we can, when we're having one of these days, we can find joy again. We just have to turn to the right direction, turn ourselves in the right direction. And the right direction is Jesus Christ, who's shown us all power over everything. That's what this word supremacy is about. It's not that He's better, but that He's everywhere. He is everywhere in every moment of our life. Sometimes that's easy to see because we're having a good one, you know. My wife asked me, would it be all right for me to put some of that CeraVe on your back? Oh, I like to feel her fingers on my back. It's always okay. Go right ahead, honey. It's easy to see Jesus when somebody who's precious to you has got their fingers on your back. And sometimes it's kind of blah, and sometimes it's not all that hot. I had a friend, a dear friend, many years ago. Used to go over to his house all the time. Actually, Bessie was there, and I probably fell in love with her in his living room, though I didn't realize it. I wasn't smart enough to realize it at the time. His name was John. And I'd been tied up with a family one Thanksgiving, and I went over to his house. I think I had a 6-pack of beer with me. Well, I brought some juice with me. And he seemed unusually quiet. And I asked him what was going on. I got in there before the other people. And he said he'd gone to see his uncle. I think it was his uncle. And Siri, go to bed and leave me alone. Goodbye. I forgot to turn my cell phone off. Siri thinks that, yes, I want to power off this device. There we go. You know, life is just the way it is. You just never know what's going to happen next. So anyhow, I was talking to him, and he'd gone, and he'd seen his, I think it was his uncle on his mother's side. And he had a lung condition. Cystic fibrosis. You may have known some people who have this. He was about 56, and in those days the treatments weren't that great. They were better than no treatments, but they weren't that great. And his uncle was fairly close to the end of his life. And I asked John about it, and he said, well, I just saw my future, and it's disturbing to me. Because this is a hereditary disease, comes down through my mother's side of the family. And sooner or later I'll get cystic fibrosis. I just looked at my future and I don't like what I see. Hey, I brought juice. I was not looking forward to, listening to my best friend's confession about being disturbed about this condition that he was going to have. Do you sometimes have no idea of what to say? Just none whatsoever? And finally I said something like, well, John, I admire you. It takes a lot of courage to go and see somebody like that, in a situation like that. And he said, sort of, give me some juice. Later, you never know, guys, when you're doing good. You just never know. Some years later, he developed cystic fibrosis, and he asked me, do you remember the night that I'd seen my uncle, and you came over, and other people weren't there? And you said to me, I admire you. So, I never told you how much that meant to me. I just never told you. Thank you. There's something about life as God's person where we see, I think, more than many people do, because we're to pause and to pray and think about what life is all about and our role in it. You've done far more good in your life than you will ever know. You're a cause for thanksgiving in people's lives that you'll never know. The time will come in which you will probably sit down and say, and maybe Thanksgiving is one of those times, or maybe New Year's, why am I here? What good have I done? What does my life mean? What would have happened if I made this choice instead of that choice? Would I be happier? Would the people around me be happier? Did I do the right thing or did I waste my time? This, my friends, is not depression. This is reality. We all have choices. And then we set out on this course or on that course. We choose who we see. Sometimes we even choose what we say. Though other times, if you're like me, we just open our mouth and out it comes. We'll all make choices. Sometimes we see tomorrow, and sometimes we have no idea what's coming. That's the way it is. That's the adventure of life. We don't know what's coming. And sometimes we understand what's been, and sometimes we don't. I had no idea. You've had no idea times in which you've blessed someone beyond measure and you didn't even know you did it. You don't know your own past. Neither do I. But we do know what God is up to. At the end of this Christian year, how can we, and on this Sunday before Thanksgiving, how can we sum up what it's all about? Well, Paul says, if you know who Jesus Christ is, you know that in Him the Father dwelt in a way that was visible. So we could see as much about God and the nature of God's love as we can understand. Jesus has made God visible to us. And what God has told us is that, what God has told us through Jesus Christ is that He's in the business of putting things right. He's in the business of putting things right. That means you are in the business of putting things right. You ever clean up the kitchen, turn around and smile? That's just when we put things right, even in small ways, it registers with us. This is good. How about when we sit down next to somebody that we know and care about, and they look troubled or discouraged, and we're just with them. And 15 minutes later, they're back in the room. You know what I mean about being back in the room and we're together? And somehow we just know it's right. When we look at Jesus' life, there's this woman at the well. It was the middle of the day. She was a Samaritan, and she looks up, and here's a Jewish rabbi sitting next to the well where she was headed. Now, you just know that this filled her heart with joy, right? Because the only reason why she was there, she was an outcast, and now she was staring at a Jewish rabbi, and she was a Samaritan, and he was between her and the well. 15 minutes later, she was headed down to town saying, I met somebody who knew who I was. Hey, have you met somebody this last year who knew who you were when you needed someone to know who you were? I bet you have. And she was full of joy. And she was full of joy. So why wouldn't God smile when you met someone and 15 minutes later they were glad that you were there? Because you've just simply done what Jesus did. And that's what life is about. That's what your life is about. That's what my life is about. And so I'm going to stop talking here in a minute, and I'm going to ask you to say a simple prayer. And that prayer is, Lord, show me when I put a smile on someone else's face. And just let yourself sit there for a few moments, seeing the smile that you put on someone else's face. So pray the prayer now. Lord, show me when I put a smile on someone else's face. Let yourself feel what that was like. And now I'm going to ask you, if you would, to pray the prayer, Lord, when did somebody put a smile on my face? O Lord, O God, I am thankful for the gift of life, for those moments in which another has put a smile on my face, and the moments in which I put a smile on theirs. At this time of Thanksgiving, I give you thanks and I give you praise. And I thank you for the gift of your Spirit dwelling in my heart, which no matter what's going on, you do, you have, and you will lift me up until you reach down and embrace me and bring you up to your house, where I'll dwell forever. In Christ's name, amen.